Meeting to order. Guess we need a roll call.
Mr. Erdis,
Here.
Mrs. Booms,
Here.
Mrs. Halsell,
Here.
Mr. Kunkel, Mr. Rainier,
Here.
Mr. Redmond,
Here. Okay, I do not have a copy of the actual agenda in front of me. Kind of flying blind here.
Dawn, can you walk us? I don't have a copy either. Dawn, can you give me the next?
we need to approve the agenda. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second it.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say comments from the public.
At this time, we have an opportunity for comments from the public. We'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting.
Next on the agenda is review committee meeting items.
Thank you, Dawn. Kim, you're up.
Okay, thank you. So first thing, we're gonna just review a few of the curriculum items. March is reading month in our elementary, and so we have a number of activities that are planned. They've put together a calendar of reading and activities, and so lots of fun things. I know I was in the hallway yesterday, and we had a lot of Dr. Seuss hats in the hallway because it was Dr. Seuss's birthday. So the kids were having a lot of fun with that. So those will be lots of great activities for the kids this month. We are also in the process of looking at the curriculum needs that we're going to have in the district this coming year. I know we're kind of in a flux about whether or not we're going to need to order the new upgrade on math expressions because the old support materials go away. We've been using that series for a number of years, but we may have to end up upgrading to that. We're also looking at some additional social studies license requirements that we're going to have to do. And so we'll keep you posted on that. We have just begun to work on curriculum budget items with Tim and Tyler just to really see what items we are going to be needing. Any questions on the curriculum piece? All right. Also, each month we are required to update our COVID extended learning plan, and that really involves, have we gone remote? Are we staying, are we offering virtual? What is the district doing? We are continuing with the same plan that we have had since last month, where we offer fully in-person education, and then parents that choose to have their children virtual, they continue to do so. And so that plan has been updated for the state. And of course, as you know, we're going to continue to work through making sure that we're fully in person. Just as a side note, I did send the board an update on just the COVID numbers that we have. I did let you know that we have staff, we do have students, a number of students out on quarantine. This number is fairly high. Just to keep you aware of that, we're required to update that weekly on our website, which we do. But I just want to let you know we're watching all of that very carefully. So just as an FYI. Any questions on that information I just shared with you?
Kim, this is Craig. Can you give us a percentage of virtual students versus in-house?
Yes, and I know Tim and Tyler are on. They can correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, actually, I talked to Tyler today. We have 110 students in the elementary that are still virtual. So we have about 400 students in the elementary. Tim, I'm going to say we have about 200 out between middle and high school. I don't know. Do you have any additional accurate information?
Nope, that's accurate.
Okay. So we're running about, I would say, 300 kids that are out virtual and approximately 700, 750 that are in person that we have.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions in that area. Okay, we're gonna move on to personnel then. We do have some resignations just to make you aware of. Lizzie Brief in our middle school, high school office has resigned. She was one of our secretaries. Her husband was a police officer in Missaukee County, and he took a position in Charlevoix. So she has left us, and they are now relocated in Charlevoix, and we wish them the best. We have reassigned positions in that office to ensure that we're getting things covered. Trina Scott, middle school track coach, has resigned, and so we'll be posting for that. Janet Leidig, longtime bus driver and then custodian. They are moving to Florida. And so I told her if she hates it, she can come back, though. Told her we're going to hate losing her. But anyway, so we are going to repost for that custodial. We're still looking at needs on that, but Joe is looking at maybe possibly doing a half-time edu staff at this time through the rest of the year just to see what real needs we're going to have going forward. So instead of just fully hiring that, that's what our plan is currently. We also are working on a community center position, manager / attendant position. I'm reworking the job description a little bit. We had talked about this last month with the goal of trying to get somebody in place here. We're hoping in April after spring break. So I'm hoping to get this posted here in another week. That's been a current position we've had in the district. So I do know of some internal staff that are interested, which would be very good because then they're on they work for us. It's not outside, and it's somebody that's already invested here in the district. And so we would really like to see that filled that way. And so then this individual then would be responsible for scheduling times. We would still run the calendar and things and check it out of my office just to, double check things, but try to turn some more of that over to a new manager / attendant that could manage that. So we're not trying to manage, Tim and I aren't trying to manage that anymore. So we would just be more of a check off to make sure that we're in a good place with that. Are there any questions on that community center? I know we talked about that quite a bit last month. Okay, so I met earlier this week with Mr. Redmond, and we talked a little bit about staff that were not able to get increases when we were in the middle of trying to manage financial needs and COVID. And the administrative contracts and our classified contracts, those run usually concurrently, and we try to update those or give raises kind of at the same time. The other union contracts are all on a schedule that we follow. This coming year in June, a lot of our support contracts are going to be open. So we've got like custodial and secretarial and food service, transportation, those contracts will be open that we will be working on. But really looking at the administrative team, that we froze everybody's salaries. We were not able to do anything, and our classified contracts. Our classified contracts are a little more complicated than our administrative contracts because those are different based on the positions that they have. And so I couldn't get that ready quick enough for tonight. So those we will look at the April board meeting. So we're going to talk just a few minutes about administrative salaries. We ran some numbers, and now the administrators, let's just go through the names on those. That would include myself, Tyler Hamilton, elementary principal, Tracy Wrights, our business manager, Tim Hanel, middle school and high school principal, and Joe Blazak, maintenance and facilities. And if you're an administrator, then you are required to oversee others, and that's part of that role and responsibility. Those are all salary level positions. So I'm throwing out some different numbers here. We've run some different scenarios: 1%, 2%, 3% on these salaries. I settled on a 2%. That would be retroactive from this year and then go into next year also. So I'm going to open that up for discussion because I know Tom had mentioned that. I'm just going to open the floor up for discussion on administrative salaries.
And just to address that, and so everybody knows what I was thinking and why I wanted to put that out for everybody. I just feel like, and it's not just administrators, but there's a lot of people in the district that have went above and beyond. But in this case, we're talking about the administrators have just done way above and beyond their normal chores, their normal workload. They've dealt with some things that nobody ever thought anybody'd have to deal with, and I just feel it's really important to reward people that work for a living for the things that they've done. And I don't think I talked to many of the board members about this, so I may be a surprise to some of you that it's out here, but that was my thinking, and I personally feel it's important, and it's probably time to do something with those salaries.
I completely agree, Tom, and I was actually going to bring this up, that I do think we need to adjust them. And Kim, where are you at right now?
So I'm currently at $110,954.
Okay.
And I can run through everybody's salaries if you want to know what those are, if you like. Or...
I'm sorry, I just didn't know them off the top of my head, so yeah.
No, that's okay. So Tyler's at 81, Tracy's at 55, Tim's at 93, and Joe is at 47.
Okay. Well, and if I recall too, there's been quite a bit of time since I've been on the board where administrators have either not taken a raise at all or just taken a small little step. You've always been the first to volunteer to kind of stay where you are, and I feel we have a little bit of catching up to do. And that's based on a little bit of research I've done around the area too. We're paying our administrators lower than what other districts are. So I guess, do you want us tonight just to discuss this and kind of talk about what percentage or of value, or are we looking more to just think about it and then come back? Does this have to be an action item for the next board meeting? What are exactly I've got the agenda in front of me, but.
So I put it out. It doesn't have to be an action item for next Wednesday. Tom just asked me to get this out on the table for everybody. So I mean, it's entirely up to the board. I would agree that we need to do something. I'm just looking at these and I know what hours they've all put in. I can personally.
Yeah, like Joe, for example, he's at 37. When is the
37.
last time he's received any kind of raise?
It was all of us got something, I want to say, and Dawn can correct me, it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Right. And wasn't it like 1% or 2% is all?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we haven't really done anything for 2 years. And this last 2 years has been very labor intensive, let's say. And you guys have, I agree with Tom completely. I guess I would suggest, I don't know if we want to do it by percentage, you know, across the board. I guess I'd like to hear from some of the other board members what they think. I do feel Kim especially she's not where she should be. So, and I recognize too, this is kind of the end of her career as well. And I know that that's really important moving forward as far as kind of what we call pay, you know, because it's based on when you leave here.
That's
I feel like
correct.
you get that adjusted before you go, Kim. I think that's important because you deserve it.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any? And I know, Dale, you haven't been on the board long, but this has been a constant pattern with our amazing administrators that they will always be the first to sit back and not take a raise or to take a smaller one so that the teachers and some of the other staff in our district are getting the funding they need for their families.
No, and that's awesome. And something that I've done at my actual employment is, you know, once like you said, you did some research on the market. Maybe instead of a percentage, we do a market increase. And the reason I say that is because then, like, you have somebody that's extremely low paid compared to the market. You know, they might get around the same as somebody that's a little bit higher paid. But the reason is because we're actually bringing them up to the market.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit more work and labor intensive, but at the end, it comes up with a fairer solution for everybody versus just, you know, 2% and move along. And so I just a suggestion just from the outside world that I've seen that
I would agree, especially. I mean, I think Kim, honestly, Kim, I think you should be more about 120. Is what I think you should be. And Joe, that's the one piece I didn't get. I don't know if you have some numbers you could share with us. I know he hasn't been with our administration as long as you, but I wasn't sure where Joe is compared to other facility managers with the amount of square footage that we have to manage and all of that. And with COVID and everything, we know that's put on more burden, where kind of that falls to. And I'm not saying Tyler and the rest of them don't either, but that was one of the suggestions that I was going to raise. So. Craig, or Ona, do you guys have anything you want to share or no?
Well, I think it needs to be done, and I agree with Dale. I'd like to see the market drive their salary, not just arbitrarily give them a 2%. The other thing I'd like to see is, and I'm certain we're okay, but we got to make sure we have the money to cover this.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is, where do we sit with our teachers and our staff?
I totally agree with Craig. Look at some numbers.
So with the staff, I had Dawn run the numbers on the percentages between the levels, because we do like professional levels for them. And we're running between 3% and 7% jumps for them, which is much higher than what administrators have been getting. So
Exactly.
Okay.
I did look at that, and that's why I'm also looking at the classified contracts because they're always the ones that take the hits with the administrative team because we're on the same cycle and I have control over their contracts and I just say, no, we're not getting anything. And so
Right.
that's why I've got to fix those and we're looking, I just need some time to figure out what's the best way to do that with them because some of them are salary, some are hourly, and I just need a little time. We have about 10 or 12 of them that are unclassified. So for those of you that a classified contract means they're not in the union. So the only union positions are teachers, custodial, secretarial. I have 2 transportation. I have 1 food service. So your classified contract people would be like people in my office, like Dawn and January are classified. Leanne Volks is a classified contract. Both of my counselors, high school and elementary, are classified because they don't have a teaching certificate. So they're classified contracts. So we have a few, Holly House is a classified contract. So we have a few of those people that do a ton of work that we really need to look at how we're making sure they're getting what they need. So.
Okay. So I think what we're asking, Kim, is do you think in the next, month, maybe before we meet again, we get this analysis done and then we can take a look at that and then make a decision maybe for next month's board meeting? Because I don't think we could do it in a week. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're thinking that, but.
No, that's fine. I just put together kind of briefly what Tom had brought up to me. And so however you guys want to do it, I'm good with, so.
And that, just keep in mind, Kim didn't bring this up. I did, and I kind of blindsided her with it. And she says, well, I don't know what that looks like or how I have to think about how to put that together. So I just, I'm glad we had the discussion, and I think what you just outlined, Tamara, is probably appropriate. We do a little research. We give Kim a little time to, look things over and make some recommendations to us, and maybe we can do some market analysis as Dale suggested, and see where we're at, and take a look at the budget again and how this affects that. And I think next month is appropriate.
Well, and next month too, we'll see the money from the sale of the land come in, and also the wood and stuff, all that should be in there, right? So we'll have, I think, a pretty good picture of where we are budget-wise. Would that be true, Kim?
Yes, I actually have it in tonight.
Okay,
Yes, I did put it in. We do have the money in hand in the bank from the sale of property. So I had Tracy figure those 2 in. So yes.
So just a question, Kim, are you doing the market research? Who's doing the market research and coming back to us next month?
Tracy and you, or?
I can do that. I can pull with market research. Let me ask a couple questions. Are you referring, and Dale, correct me here, are you referring to like what all the like I would pull other administrative contracts around that would mirror our size of school districts? That's what you're kind of thinking, right, Dale?
Yeah, I would say look at the surrounding school districts. I know Cadillac is bigger, but it's in the same market, right? I mean, you could, in theory, go from Lake City to Cadillac and not have to even sell your house. You just live in the same home. So I would look at the same market, and then if there's other schools that are just outside our market, like maybe Houghton Lake, or even go as far as Roscommon, that we can get some of that information from. That's probably how I would do it. Is similar areas.
Similar areas, but you also got to look at similar size schools and then compare the comps.
Yeah, exactly. And with facilities, looking at the size of the facility, like for Joe's job, because that's kind of overseeing the amount of custodial in the area, make sure that we have similar, that's kind of what you want. So that'll give us a guideline.
Right, that'll give me a little time, because that's a bit to try to turn that around, so.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right, I will work on that then, and then what I'll try to do is even shoot it out to you guys what I have ahead of time, so you got a little time to digest it, and then if you got questions or more thoughts, you can go, hey, yes, no, whatever, okay? Okay, any other questions on personnel? Okay, just some upcoming student activities. We've got the end of the marking period is March 26th, so that's just before spring break. Spring break is going to be March 29th through April 2nd. We do have kindergarten roundup already scheduled, and we are planning to have that in person. I don't know, Tyler, do you want to just say a quick couple things about kindergarten roundup? Because we're going to try to keep that as normal as possible for kids.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, so like Kim said, we have kindergarten roundup all scheduled at the end of April, and just like we have in the past, we're going to be bringing people in so that way they can get a feel of the school. Students can meet the teachers. Now, we used to jam pack it all into 2 mornings. I think we're going to have to do smaller sessions, right, to keep that distancing and to be able to not intermix with the flow of other students and such. But I want to make it as normal as possible, so that way, like, parents got to come in, but they didn't get to come in and actually see like the school functioning and meet most of the staff like they will this year. And so I know that one school already has their kindergarten roundup stuff out right now, and I want to make sure that we're right behind them to make sure that we know, letting our parents know that, hey, we need to get signed up, and letting them know when our roundup is, so that way we can make that first connection with them a positive one. So we have stuff on our website. I know that we'll be getting it out on Facebook and in the paper and a few other places as well. So anything that I missed, Kim?
No, I think you got it, Tyler. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, any questions on that? Okay, just a note for you, we have scheduled, I think there's probably, I got a contact from, a call from the health department. We are looking at probably 5 dates between March and April where they want to use our facility, our gym with the lobby area for vaccine clinics. Now, as you remember, this was part of what we wanted to do. I look at this as disaster relief. This is a really positive thing that we're providing this service. The other thing that we are doing, they're bringing National Guard in and to help with this, and we will feed them. So we're gonna I think we sustain it, and we pay for the food, and I'm gonna have the food service staff make some breakfast and lunches for everybody and have coffee and water, and we're gonna do a really nice job. So we're gonna have that over the next 5 between March and April, guys. So I think this is exactly what we talked about from the get-go. Lake City, this is the facility for our county, for the community, and this is exactly what we want to see going forward. So anyway, I'm really pleased to be able to help out with this. So this is good stuff here. I also included, we had a former student, and it was just really cool. She reached out to me, called me, and is at Michigan State, and she was doing an article on remote learning. And I included in your packet, Chloe Trofeter, former grad of Lake City, and so I love helping our former grads, and Lake City's quoted in the article, so I threw that in, and it's just really cool to see our kids being successful and moving forward. So just a thing, an atta girl for a Lake City alum. So I wanted you to see that. Okay, under operations, I'm going to have Joe talk a minute about the roof. I sent in your packet, you guys, you have the map of the roof, and you remember Bloxham, we had a part A, part B, or C, the whole thing. Joe's going to talk just a minute about how much of this do we want to bite off? Do we want to do the whole roof, or what some of the things are we're going to do with that? So I'm going to turn this over to him at this time.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what Bloxham is wanting to know, they're trying to schedule as quickly as possible. And are we going to attempt to do both A and B this year, or do we want to divide them? That was one of the questions.
Joe, I think it's important to know, and maybe it's in your report, but what are the pros and cons of doing one now and one next year, and or doing them all right now? What's the pluses and minuses from your viewpoint?
Well, we definitely need, I think, to get the middle school section done. That would be the B section first. I think we can possibly go another year with the A section. I have not been up there probably for about a year and a half on the gym, just because they were going to, if you remember, they put in a bid to redo the metal around the roof because it was stretching. The fabric is kind of stretching around the edges, but they said we were gonna do the gym, I think a year ago, and they said, well, if we're gonna do it, we might as well not, put the money into the new metal and restretch it. So we haven't had any problems with the roof since about a year and a half over the gym. My only concern is with that is last year, we didn't think we'd have any problem over the middle school, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, every other week we got a leak, it seems like, over the middle school part. So I can't say how long that gym roof is going to last. I think the band room and the auditorium is okay. And, maybe we can do the gym and the middle school this year. And do maybe the band and the auditorium next year. The downside of that is they might not be able to guarantee what they bid on it, only for the fact that if petroleum goes up, on an extreme, that they're going to have to adjust some of their prices for materials. So, but that would be my recommendation,
Clarify your recommendations. You think we should do it all at once or split it up?
Well, I think if we can do the gym this year and all of B that we have listed, I think would be a good move. If not, we could possibly get by another year with the A side. Of course, we're taking a chance. My only reservation, I would say we could go another year, but over the gym, you got the floor that's underneath, and if something happens over the weekend and nobody's there, and you got all of a sudden water all over the floor, then we could have floor damage too. So that's my only concern over the gym.
So, Joe, this is Craig, and as we talk about this and work this through, how did we factor this into our facilities management document?
So I'm gonna jump in.
That's
with you.
fine.
Yep. So we had factored this in as the whole. What my concern is down the road, 15, 17 years from now, trying to come up with that amount of roof area to do. I'm concerned about that. I would like to see us try to split it up, even if we threw the gym in with the middle school, put the middle school gym in. I mean, we got the whole price, so we already know what we're dealing with. But if we did the middle school, all the middle school except the auditorium and the band room, I mean, at least it's not the whole thing, and you have another smaller section that So then you're looking at probably about 250,000 or something as opposed to 350. So I don't know. I would like to lean towards splitting it up because I'm worried about the cost later. Because when you have that amount of roof that you're trying to cover later and come up with those funds, it gets, and I don't have, when we set up that facility plan, guys, that was for probably an extra 5 to 7 years. I don't have it out further than that, other than what we know, like the roof will have to be replaced down the road, those kind of things. So I'm just conscious of, and I know previous soups have always split the roof up because it's a big house and you're trying to manage the cost of redoing it. So that's just my takeaway.
Yeah, we just got bigger.
Right. Well, I guess what I would do is follow your recommendation on splitting it up and doing the two parcels this year and next year, but make sure we get this in our facilities document, the years we did this and how long the expectations of these roofs are to, the life of those roofs are. Does that make sense?
Yes, and they did, they did some core samples, Bloxham did, but they have yet to get the results back, and this has probably been about 8 months. So, but when he looked at the roof last year, he said we probably could have possibly another 5 to 7 years on that roof.
When you say that roof, which?
On the middle school roof, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because this is the one that's given us the most issues right now. And it's basically over the classroom area, in the B section. And right now, the one little lower roof that's next to the gym is the other one that's given us some recent issues. So I'm thinking that we might have had that on, the integrity would have lasted another 5 to 7 years, but they had staged some equipment. I know D&W had put some equipment on there, and I think they broke down, looking back, hindsight's 2020, but they broke down the sublayer where we got ponding up there now, and that is kind of lessen the roof integrity.
I think we're looking forward at this point, not backwards. I think Craig's point is to get the facilities management plan laid out so that if it's 20 years that we think the new roof is going to last, that's documented and part of a plan in the future, so it doesn't sneak up on somebody down the road. Is that correct, Craig?
That's exactly what I was trying to point out, Tom.
Yeah, it's not. I think we're in agreement that the roofs need to be done now. I think it sounds to me like there's a general consensus that we're going to split it up based on Kim and Joe's recommendations of what needs to be done first and what can wait until next year. And the only thing left unchecked is to just make sure that everything we do becomes part of the future facilities management plan.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep. That's correct. That's a living document, and I'm updating it all the time, and we'll make sure that is in there and documented as such.
Perfect.
Thank you.
One more thing on, we had a bleacher inspection on our new bleachers, and they had found that our bleachers are kind of walking when they're pulled out and retracted when they stack up. There's supposed to be 2.5 inches between the bleachers and the wall. And on one particular bleachers, there was 4 inches on one side and there was like a 1/2 inch on the other side. So for whatever reason, they're walking from one side to the other when we're pulling them in and out. Some wheels are grabbing, some are slipping, could be water on the floor, whatever. But this is what's going on. They figure over time, they are going to wear out and they are going to end up rubbing them against the wall, which we do not want. So they recommended some angles that are placed in the back, and when they stack up, it kind of straightens them out to the point where, you know, they'll just be a little more true to where they were first installed. That's about $1,100 price tag on that. So
Is this covered under warranty?
no,
It's not.
no.
Boy, oh boy. That sounds like a warranty problem to me all day long.
That was actually my first thought when I saw that too. I mean, these are only what, three years old.
Two.
Yeah.
So yeah, two years old, and you know, it sounds like they weren't installed right, and they needed these from the beginning.
Well, that's what I asked him. I sent him an email and I says, you know, if this was an issue, why aren't we given the option to install these in the beginning at least? And he says, well, it just depends on the situation, and you know, I think it's just something that service after the sale type of thing, that something they make money on.
Now, we did contract with Intercall to have them check those bleachers. They come what, every year, Joe, now? They're on yeah, because I wanted to maintain them. But I'm happy to have Joe push on the
Warranty?
yeah, warranty, thank you.
Yes, I would recommend asking about the warranty, and also if we're doing this and they're coming in checking, this should be implemented into your facilities management process too.
Yes,
Yep, it is.
it is. Actually, it's on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree that it sounds like a warranty issue to me, and I'm not sure that I would take no for an answer.
Okay.
But we spent a lot of money to have very high quality equipment, and 2 years later say, well, maybe we didn't need that, maybe we did, whatever. No, I'm not okay with that.
Well, I wasn't either, and that's what I emailed him back, because the gentleman that came out and inspected told me that, yeah, it's a code violation that the bleachers can't be over 4 inches on one side, and they were like 4 1/4 on the side that he showed me. So my email was, well, if this was a code issue, then why wasn't this installed in the beginning so this doesn't happen? You know, and
Right.
that's kind of my take on it too. But I don't know how far I can get, but I certainly will try.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Joe? Okay, one more topic here. I want to talk a little bit about transportation, guys. I'm already looking at next year. I have a transportation update. It's kind of at the end of your packet. And then I had Tracy just run some numbers for us. And as you know, with transportation, we went with a staggered start and dismissal. A couple of reasons why we did that was, number one, to spread kids out on the bus, because we needed to do that. And also, Tamara, great idea. It helps save us money. So we are actually coming in saving about $60,000 with this. So kudos, Tam, on that. And I never thought we were going to save that kind of money. It really doesn't seem like that, but we do. The other thing that has been incredible with this, and I put it on your transportation update, is the discipline referrals. And so I'll just read a couple of these. But by splitting up the kids on the bus, so in other words, pulling middle school, high school on their own runs, elementary separate, 1920 in September, we had 47 referrals. This year we had 4. In October, a previous year, we had 79 referrals. This October, we had 14. Previously, November, and November was a partial month, guys, but in 1920, we had 39 referrals. This year, we had 4. January, we didn't have any school in December, but January 1920, we had 55 referrals. We had 1. February so far, in this year, or a year ago, we had 19. This year, we had 14. It's kind of spiking up a little bit, but it's an incredible, the less referrals that I have. I will tell you that the bus drivers are very pleased with this. I have not surveyed any staff or parents yet on this. There's a couple of things I'm wondering about, because I do not want to go through what we went through in August, where we were doing all the runs over again just before school started. That was not a good plan. But we did what we had to, and we made it happen. So, really, I think with the board, what we need to think about is, do we want to continue with this? I'm looking at, if we have to bring everybody, put them back on buses, I'm going to have to add 2 runs because there's too full. Would we save? We would probably continue to save money. I haven't run all the numbers yet. Tracy has run some of them, but we could be saving an addition, another 60,000 next year, because I wouldn't have to run as many runs with the buses. Less discipline issues, but on the other side is, I'm running 7:30 to 2:30 with the middle school and high school, and then 8:15 to 3:40 with elementary. So I know there's been some angst with some of the teachers with that. I said I would survey, but if I get people that don't like it, if it saves money, are we gonna do it, So I'm just opening it up for a little discussion here for transportation, guys. What are your thoughts?
This is Craig. My first response is, if we're having less discipline problems on the bus and everything's working smoothly, that should be a big plus for any parent in the district if their kid's not being harassed or having issues on the bus. To me, that's a huge, huge thing. The other thing is, and I'm going to say this as a secondary, is it is helping us reduce our spend. Anytime you can do that in the school district, Yahoo for us. So I'm going to put the emphasis on the discipline issues and the lack of the request for us to have discipline. I think that's a big deal. And when you do a survey, I would somehow factor that into your question.
I have one question, Kim. When you talked about if we do it again next year, we'd have to add 2 runs. Is that if the virtual numbers go down?
Right.
And that's why you'd have to add 2 runs, but do we really know that's going to happen or not?
Right. So it would be if we went back to the old way we bussed. For sure, I would have to add 2 runs. Like if we went to 1, because the buses would be too full with kids. If I went back to 1, no staggered start or dismissal.
I'm with you now. Okay, no staggered start. But you're saying if we kept it staggered start, we could keep the same amount of runs and potentially save another $60,000 next year as well.
Well, I might have to add 1 more run, but it wouldn't be as much unless I can shift them. It's all about shifting the kids, and if we can move them from one bus to another is part of the deal. The other thing just to take into consideration is any parent that could not get their kid on the bus, their student on the bus, let's say you had high school kids, like a 3rd grader, I allowed that 3rd grader to ride that high school bus, and then I had the elementary staffed, so the parents didn't pay, that child was just dropped off at the elementary at 7:30. We were there. We had breakfast running for the 45 minutes to space kids out. And I know Tyler would tell you it really has worked quite smoothly. But so there, it's a trade-off. It's like a kind of a domino effect. If we do this, then this, and we got to make sure that we're staffing to provide that for the kids, and we're not charging for that either, that's the right thing to do because, it's not parents. We're just trying to make it work better. So I don't know, Tyler, do you want to just jump into that a second for me with the transportation a minute?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so with transportation, I'll be honest, like Kim said, the biggest thing for me is the behavior, because I would know around 11:30 I would be getting I'd be getting about 6 behavior referrals that day, that I would need to track down 6 students, kind of stop what I was doing, address what was going on the bus. Connie did a nice job of always calling the parents, but I always wanted to make sure that the student knew that we knew that they were messing up on the bus or doing something they shouldn't have. And then I always knew at night I'd be getting some that I would start my day off like that. And it's not very often anymore, as Kim said. But then even with the crew that comes over at the 7:15 time that they when they ride in with the high schoolers, we have it staffed so they can go in, they can eat. I've said in some of my board reports, talked about how Holly Households really transformed the cafetorium in the morning for our kindergartners through second graders. So the kids are engaged in learning right when they get there, and it's fun. Like they think they're playing a game, but she's actually teaching them something. We're in the process of, in our gymnasium, where our 3rd through 5th graders are staged, because they're a little bit more self-sufficient. In there, they still have staff, but they can keep themselves busy. But enhancing it that way, we've used Carrie Roosevelt's rolling TV to be able to project some stuff and have her talk. Right now, it's through a megaphone, so it's not perfect, but it is. We've definitely, we have some room to improve, but the overall, the behaviors have been great, and just the ability to get kids engaged right when they come in is fairly easy, because we have been able to be staffed, and so kids can come in at whatever time it helps their parents out. So any other questions on that for me?
I have 3 questions. One,
Okay.
Kim, when would we have to make this decision? 2, I'd like to hear from Tim as well, and maybe any other administrators. How do you guys like the staggered start? How do you feel overall the staff morale is, and like from a teacher standpoint? And then 3, when you mentioned there were families in our community that had to do the little kid got on the bus with the high school or vice versa, what are we talking percentage wise, or how many families are we talking that affected in our district?
So there's like 10, I think about 10 kids, right, Tyler, right now?
Yeah. So it's when a lot of, the crew that comes over, because they meet at the high school, then get on the bus and I'll come over. There's probably about 15 students that come in, but over half of them are high school teachers, staff over there that have kids. And so they come over. I would say like 10 would be the absolute max that we are servicing. I would say it's probably close to 5 or 6 extra students that come over that need to ride in the morning. So and then just to talk on how I like it, it doesn't really matter, because it's only flexing us about 15 minutes. But I know that even from the standpoint where there would be high schoolers that would have to come and they'd have to sit on those buses. Like Craig can speak to this. Those high schoolers sitting on the buses for 10 minutes at the elementary as we board. Like there were times when it was like, hey, we have this high schooler, we have this middle schooler, Mr. Hamilton, we need you over here. And like, it's taking care of that problem too. And so I've enjoyed it, because empty buses pull up, and then I know that I'm not really there to help these issues that are arising on the buses from kids that don't want to sit there and wait for 10 minutes for the elementary kids to get on. And so for me, I really enjoy it. I know some staff with their kids at the high school now, don't like that it's earlier and then they get out a lot, or they get out earlier than us. And so where do they sit for that little bit of time then to be able to come over? But I think all in all, when you put all those pluses that Craig talked about, it's, the pros and cons, the pros really outweigh keeping this staggered start.
You also have to remember there's 310 kids that's on virtual. So they could be a lot of the problem kids too.
Yeah, they might be, Ona. So Tim, do you want to jump in with that? Just kind of your thoughts from middle school, high school?
Yeah, sure thing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For us, I mean, I think I'm not going to say we have the better deal, but our teachers start earlier, which initially was a bit of a shock. I mean, I think it was about 35 minutes sooner. And we're not necessarily a morning crew always, but they've adapted and have done a really nice job. My staff gets done about an hour earlier than Tyler's on most days, unless they coach and do extracurricular. And I think they like that more than they don't like getting there earlier. One of the pluses is that students don't have to leave early from school for sporting events, even though we haven't had a ton. But going into spring, especially with track meets and baseball and golf, it seems like every day there's a group leaving early. So that's been a benefit. I don't really see a downside from a middle high school standpoint at this time. So
Yeah, I've liked the fact that practice, the kids are getting home at an earlier time too, and they still have time to do homework or be with family or go to church or other things that maybe, it's been kind of nice in that way too, I think, for the middle school, high schoolers. So, or
yeah, agreed.
make some money. So.
Yep.
Tim, what about academically? Are the kids dragging in school in the morning?
I don't think that really the 35 minutes makes a difference.
Okay.
Really, I mean, I know initially we talked a lot about development. I mean, the research really does show that 9 a.m. is probably the best start time for a kid in adolescence, right? But if we're not able to do that, which we really aren't, I mean, a school schedule is built around adults. That's kind of how, not necessarily teachers, but really parents. But anyway, with that, I don't see, we've tried to structure our first hour so that it's not a hard start to the day for kids, but
that's a good idea.
It's going really well. Things are going well.
Good.
For sure.
I was a little worried about that. I mean, my child is not a morning person, so that definitely has been an adjustment. But, I guess it prepares him for the real world because you don't usually start your job at 9 o'clock anyway. So.
Right on.
When he starts pruning trees this summer, he'll be ready to go with Junior.
Exactly. So when would we have to make this decision, Kim? What are you thinking you want to do?
Well, I want to have it done in May or April so that we know ahead of time. So we're not doing this other, that would be my goal. So I think what I will do though is put together what the positives that we found. And then I think I will do maybe like a 3-question survey, send it out to parents and to the staff because I said I would, and I want to make sure I follow through on what I say. So that people.
Right. One other positive too, I haven't heard as much about, how last year we were constantly having trouble with finding bus drivers and the whole substitution nightmare. Has that kind of lessened as well?
Yes.
That was a big deal the last few years.
Yeah.
So that's another positive,
Yeah, the drivers like it because they're not dealing obviously with crazy. When you do crazy's like a little rough sometimes. So yeah. I like the idea of having elementary on the bus by themselves. I really do. I think it's a good thing. So, okay, I'm going to keep going then. Under finance, we've got you've got the breakdown on capital projects, cash flow, cash balances. I want to spend just a couple minutes on the budget amendment. I did have Tracy put in there for you. we did include the money on the trees and the money on the property. And so if you look at the proposed budget to be adopted, this is the amended budget, and we talked about this last month. By putting that in, we would be to the good 59,102. So that would put us in at an ending fund balance of $1.3 million.
Okay.
Any comments, Tam? Any other things that you? And
Better
yeah,
than
as
what I expected at this time, sitting here a
Hey.
year ago.
I'll tell you what, there was a lot of gyrations that went through. I mean, I have never spent so much time trying to figure out what to do, but that makes me feel pretty good, actually, right here, $1.3 million. So, and I feel that going forward, and I've shared this with a few of you, I think that we're going to see, I mean, right now we're looking at over $1 million coming in ESSER funds. That's the funding from the feds and the, to help with the COVID relief. And they've kind of loosened up what we can do with that a little bit. There's some different criteria. Tracy and I are already looking at that with what we want to, and you're allowed to supplant, which means if I need to use it for general fund expenditures, I can, which is going to help us so that I can put general fund aside and have that sitting there and not burning through fund balance. The other thing that we are doing is, and we had talked about this before, that 66,000 that we get on the timber project, that's going to go right into the general fund to offset, as you remember this, teachers' salaries and that portion. The 175 that we got on the property, I do have it in this budget, but what we do is we're going to have it set aside and then we can move it over to capital projects, but we're going to need it in here for right now to keep us at 11% or above. So that 175,000 will be my recommendation to put aside into capital projects for future, because that sinking fund is going to go away quick after that roof. And that'll give a nice nest egg going forward. Throw 25, 50,000 at it a year, can get that built up so that we have something sitting there when we got to go after the roof or you need to fix things. Because like I said, it's a big house and there's always things that go wrong. So just kind of thinking ahead on that. We'll talk more about that later, but just so you know where the funds sit right now. Any questions on that? Okay. Policy. We've not worked on the calendar yet. I have a superintendent meeting next week, Monday, and I think that's going to be a topic for consideration. I know there's some talk out there about extending the school year. I'm not necessarily in favor of that. We have a pretty extensive summer school program that we already have laid out for this coming summer. Tim's already started credit recovery in the high school. And I'm looking at probably trying to keep it like we have, just starting the week before Labor Day, because I've got summer school running right up to almost that point for the elementary. So what we've done with that elementary summer schools, we have 2 weeks on, a week off, 2 weeks on, a week off, so that we can try to get some kids who need all 6 weeks, try to get them there for all 6 weeks. We're going to provide busing. Some kids might need to only be there for 2 weeks. Some might need to be there for 4 weeks, but to try to tailor that to really fit those individual needs. So I really don't want to start prior to the date that we have set. Now, if the legislature comes out and says we got to add 185 days, or we have to add 5-6 more days, and then that's going to be another conversation. But just so you know where we are right now with that. We also have a board member resignation. Joe McGinnis, as you know, has been spending a lot of time out east, and he has sold his house. And so Joe is officially resigned. Tom, you got the letter, so did I. And so we are going to be in the process of replacing Joe. Do you want to talk a minute about that, Tom?
Yeah, I can. Did everybody get the board vacancy information, or was that just for me?
No,
I think
everybody
it's-
got it in their
Yeah.
pack.
There you go. It, we don't have much time, and it's quite a process. We need to get it posted almost immediately. We need to come up with a list of questions, and we use the same questions for interviewing each candidate. According to what I read here, the entire board interviews every single candidate, and then we decide amongst us. We whittle it down to 3 finalists, and then we take the 3 finalists and we have a little more discussion, and then we pick one. It's going to take a little time on all of our behalf. I don't necessarily have a direction immediately that Joe just emailed me last night. So I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. But that's in a nutshell. We got to get it posted, and there's going to be some work involved. I don't
So
know if
I'm just-
we have, do we have any documentation from doing this previously?
Yes, so we've already pulled all, yes, I've pulled all that, Dawn has pulled all that together. So I already have a posting ready for you just to look at and approve, Tom. And what I've looked at is the timeline to, for the posting to go, and then, when we're gonna do the interviews, I have that pretty well all set. Dawn, do you have that in front of you right now? Can you address that quickly?
I do, and it's included in everyone's packet. It says school board vacancy. So we'll get it listed in the Sentinel on March 12th. Then the applicants must be received by March 26th. And then we'll have a special meeting on Wednesday, April 7th, appointing a person to this vacancy at the Wednesday, April 14th regular board meeting. So we should have it all wrapped up by April 14th.
So in the packet, they also have a list of questions, sample questions. I've just reviewed this quickly, so I've got to go back through things, and I'll try to kind of lay this out real scripted so we have this. But I think the big thing is getting this posted. So if we post in the Sentinel, we'll also go in the Cadillac News, we'll post it on our website. But we're going to want to think about who we really want to contact that might be interested, because we've talked before that it's very important to get people in positions in school boards that take this position seriously, and understand what it entails. And so that talks quite a bit about this in this guide that you guys have in your packets as well. So.
Does everybody see that where there's review all applications and interview candidates during a special meeting scheduled for Wednesday, April 7th?
Yep.
I see it.
Yep, I can make.
Yep. I see it.
I would strongly encourage each of you to go out and beat the bushes a little bit for candidates that you think were qualified. I did briefly go through the packet from MASB, and it's very important. I would encourage everybody to read all of that. Things the board deals with, what makes a good board member. There's some very good information in all that packet. And we'll get that posted and we'll do the interviews on April 7th. Between now and then, we'll get a list of the questions together and make sure everybody's good with the questions.
So, Tom, do you want the board members to contact you with names of possible candidates you might think are possibilities? So we kind of have a funnel.
Well, I think that anybody that's interested should submit a letter. I mean, if I'm not going to. I guess we can certainly have those conversations amongst us, but if they're interested, they need to submit a letter.
Okay.
And then we'll get the letters as we get them, and then we'll go through the process of reviewing the applications and interviewing the candidates.
Okay, very good.
Does that make sense to anybody? Anyone have some thoughts or ideas or questions?
Nope, I think that's a good plan, and we just work the plan. It's all pretty much laid out in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's the way we should go.
Very good. We'll work in that direction.
Okay, very good. Dale, you got any questions on policy?
Not at this time.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so you have your Troon report, guys, board packets. That's all I have for you tonight.
Okay.
Do we have opportunity for comments from the public again? Is that it on the agenda, Dawn?
That's all.
And that's all, folks. Thank you all
guys.
very much. The
Thank
meeting
you.
adjourned.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You
Everybody
too,
have a
all.
good night.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye.